We're live. Okay. Welcome. So we are here. We're going to be inviting my mom, Renee Skiffington, on to chat with us. Let me just invite her. Renee. Little technology.
Yes, in celebration of our belated Mother's Day, we're bringing on our mothers to talk with them about what life was like in the 1970s.
Yeah. So let's see. For some reason, it's not popping up. Okay. Invite her.
Maybe she's not on yet.
Yeah, let's see. Find her. But just while we're getting going, I was going to chat a little bit about June 1st.
Mm-hmm. So why are we doing this?
Your phone
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna just message her from the page.
So why are we doing this? Why are we chatting with our moms?
Right. So we have a film. So For Widows, this page is it's actually a page for a feature film that Danielle wrote that takes place in 1973.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought it would be fun to chat with our moms since they were here in 1973.
Yeah. And we can find out what life was like. Because, I was thinking about it, and it's 2023. So 1973 was exactly 50 years ago. And when you think about it that way, you realize how long, half a century ago. And there's so much has changed with technology, and so much hasn't changed in other ways. So, but we don't know because we didn't live during 1973.
Right.
I was close, but I didn't. Not 1973. Not that I can remember.
70s, like at the end of the 70s.
And when I'm researching for a script, I like talking to people most. I look at the internet when I have to, but I get a lot more information from newspapers and people that lived during that time, and it's much more fascinating to hear their stories.
Yes, no, you can watch movies and hear about the past, but there's something about those moments where found her.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Jordan?
And now we should.
We made it!
Okay.
Oh, yay! Hi, Mom!
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay, good.
Thank you for coming on. Oh, there's Jessica Moore, my sister.
Oh, she's hot.
Yes. So this is Danielle.
Hi.
Have you met Danielle, Mom? Yes. We did when you were here. Yes. So we're talking about the feature film that Danielle has just finished writing called For Widows. And it takes place in 1973. So we thought it'd be fun to interview some people who lived in 1973.
I think that means me.
Oh, no. So what were you doing in 1973?
Well, I think the biggest thing that maybe I should start with is that I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so I'm south of Portland, Oregon, because I think all throughout the history of the United States, where you live throughout the United States really has a bearing on your experiences.
That's very true.
Yeah. We lived in a logging community. It was about 5,000 people, but small compared to like Portland or something like that. And so smaller community. So I think different things probably reached us a little bit later than other places, you know. But yeah, 1973, oh my goodness. Well, you know, I guess I was a junior in high school.
Okay.
And what really, there was probably years kind of leading to 73 that had a huge impact on me.
Right. Yeah, especially those are like your formative years too, like middle school into high school, like 68 to 73, those 5 years.
Yeah, so we called it junior high, and it was 7th and 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so during that time, we went from people wearing caked on blue eyeshadow and short bleached blonde hair. Blondes were the thing. Blondes had more fun. We went from that to like Twiggy, who, was super, super thin model.
I remember.
Yeah, and went from things like only being allowed to wear dresses in school, and then like our freshman year of high school, we were able to wear pantsuits.
Interesting.
Right? I can't imagine.
How did that feel like? Was that something that you were that you welcomed that change, or were you a little bit like unsure because everything had been one way for so long?
Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? Girls, it's a real bummer to have to wear a dress everywhere you go.
Yeah, you loved it.
Yeah, it's fun to wear dresses sometimes, but being a kid on the playground, we had to wear shorts underneath our dresses or pants, or we weren't allowed to, you know, play on the
playground. That's so wild. Yeah. So you were excited. You were like, no more dresses every day.
Yeah, I don't even know if I was excited. I just thought, my parents were more practical, so at home we grew up a little more practical than that, I guess. But I can remember my grandmother, she worked out in her garden, her huge garden, in her dress. Yeah.
I know I've seen ads, like TV shows will do this too, that take place in the 50s and 60s, and you have a woman who's in the perfectly ironed dress and her heels, and she's vacuuming. Yeah. And I mean, I just can't imagine.
Doing housework, yeah.
Well, to tell you the truth, they probably didn't do that. It was Hollywood's version of what maybe at the time we're hoping was happening at home.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, so we went from pantsuits to the next year we could actually wear jeans, and then pretty soon anything that you could wear, you know, pretty much whatever.
So what exactly is a pantsuit? Would that be like a full onesie, kind of like it's all one piece?
Okay, just think of Hillary Clinton and you've got it.
Oh, like that, like a pants, like a suit. Wow, in high school. Can you imagine? Yes.
So some people, a lot of us just wore dresses.
You just stuck with the dresses because.
But then the next year we got to wear, you know, pants like hip huggers and bell bottoms, and
that must have been fun.
Oh, I loved my bell bottoms. They were so much fun.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the biggest signs of equality too, like actually coming into real life is fashion.
It might have been maybe a start.
Okay.
The visual, a visual thing.
You have to start somewhere.
Right, yeah.
Well, and then, you know, you go from, in the 60s, you know, the Beatles really instituted a lot of change in our culture in a myriad of ways.
Right.
But I can remember my freshman year was the first Earth Day ever in April.
Wow.
Yeah. What
My
did you guys do for the first Earth Day ever?
Well, our teacher was so into it, and what he did is he planned for us to ride buses. We did this throughout high school, actually. Those that wanted to sign on, because of course not everybody was into it, but we would bus into Portland, and we'd stand on the various street corners and measure the amount of pollution that the cars.
Wow.
So my lungs have measured that pollution. So
pollution. Oh my goodness. But that's really cool too, because that's, I guess, the beginning of people being pretty environmentally conscious too, would be like Earth Day, the early 70s.
It's very interesting that you say that, because I think people forget that, like my mom and dad's generation, they everything to the instant. Yeah. We grew up that way. You used things and reused them and found a next
where
and
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, most things were glass containers, so they were recyclable.
Right.
And then plastic moved in with a vengeance.
And
I know.
And then another thing too, didn't you you got into like sewing, and wouldn't you make a lot of your own clothes in the 70s?
Oh yeah, I love sewing, and that now it's so expensive.
The fabric and the pattern.
Yeah, compared to you go someplace and can buy something for almost nothing compared to what you can sew it for. But it's way more fun to sew it.
Yeah.
If listening, she might not get that.
I remember you sewed even like when I was young. I remember that pilgrim outfit that you made.
Yeah, I love doing that. But Danielle, I don't know if you know this about Jenny, but
I'm gonna learn some secrets now.
No.
Do you remember your sewing project in high school?
Well, I'm not good at sewing. I think we had to make boxer shorts. It was home ec class or something. And mine, it was like a joke or something. Like one leg was longer than the other, like out of like a comedy where someone's trying to sew and just is terrible at it.
No, that sounds like an experience I probably had too. That's probably why we get along pretty well. We can relate to those little
Doesn't that happen in that movie, The Trouble with Angels, Mom? She's trying to sew something up halfway.
With Haley Mills.
Well, that's another fun thing. What were some of like your favorite movies at that time, like the late 60s into the early 70s, like the pop culture?
Yeah, what you have to do is you have to really wind backwards, because if we went to the movies, it was maybe like once a month.
Yeah, and special.
And then Friday night at the movies on TV, it could be something you wanted to watch and might not be.
It's just whatever was on. Yeah.
Right. And how many channels were available on TV around that time?
I remember NBC, ABC, and CBS.
Okay.
So, and of course, they off the air at a certain time, and
just go to static, right, at a certain time.
I remember being at my grandparents' house when I was younger, and there would just be the knob. You had to switch it, and I think it went to like 10, maybe 7. I don't know, and that was it. And half of them were static.
Yeah. So those were the 3 major networks, and I can remember the first colored TV we got, actually.
When was that?
Yeah, it was probably about 67.
Wow.
Yeah, my brother Matthew, he sold newspaper, subscriptions, and he sold the most, so he won a colored TV. And I mean, it's so fun to see the Peacock in color and see Disneyland in color.
It's so cool.
These are the things that we can't appreciate the same way that you could have appreciated it then.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And, along that line, they went from, so there were, you know, they, there was reel-to-reel tapes, but they were huge. Most people didn't have those. So they came out with what they call a cassette tape. But first they had the little miniature one. It wasn't actually an enclosed one. It was just the little mini one. And
the tape.
Yeah, so it just
Wow.
real. And I can remember my brother Matthew, he got one of those for Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and he made all these scary sounds on it, and then he played it outside our bedroom window.
Did it get you guys? You and Aunt Vicky?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That's so fun. Yeah, all that, it was so new too. Like, like it's just amazing. Yeah. Especially like color TV, all of that.
I think some of the fun sides of those kinds of things, and enjoying songs and groups, and I loved Romeo and Juliet. That was probably one of my favorite movies.
Oh, I've never seen that version.
Yeah.
The one, a girl with the really long dark hair.
Olivia Hussey. Yeah.
You kind of, so there's pictures I've seen of you around that time where you kind of look like her to me a little bit. My mom had long dark hair, like down to her hips.
I would love to see some of those pictures.
Yeah.
So Danielle, that's just another thing that you've probably seen pictures too, where in high school, so there was the first Earth Day, but also we had, everything was made for comfort. We had Earth shoes, and we'd wear sometimes long dresses or just comfort, dress for comfort. And everybody parted their hair down the middle, yeah, long hair, and afros were in. So however hair went, it was kind of.
And yeah, you let it go. Wait, you used to talk about big, what, Coke can curlers, or what were they that you used?
Well, yeah, they were the size of a soup can, but they were actually, curlers, like Campbell's soup,
Those are big,
huge, yeah.
Well, and then how did they stay in place? Was it like a clip or a pin?
Some people used, because they were kind of like, let's see, how would you describe those? They weren't hard plastic. They were kind of givable. And so some people had these things that looked a little bit like a plastic toothpick, and they'd use those to hold in place.
Like goes through. Oh,
yeah.
It
didn't feel very good.
It sounds uncomfortable, like if you're at night.
Yeah, can you sleep on that?
So what I did is I used large bobby pins just to connect two together, just put it through. And then I had this is so funny. I had a hair dryer. For years I had a hair dryer. It just was like a...
Was it the one that it looks like a shower cap that goes over the curlers? Yeah. And then like kind of like a vacuum looking hose.
Well, it makes sense because you would want to dry your hair like quickly, right?
Yeah.
You can't do much with like the toothpicks and stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, those were so uncomfortable. But yeah, so there was always the fun things. I think like, in the 60s, it was all about space, and we were going to live in space, and the Jetsons, we were going to be like the Jetsons, Do you know what the Jetsons are?
Yeah, I love the Jetsons.
Yeah. So, that's what we were thinking. And then President Kennedy got shot. I'll never forget that day.
What were we at school?
Yeah, it was about 12:30 in the middle of the day, and the teachers were all crying. It was so awful. It was and then after that, it just seems like, the Vietnam War got worse, and my neighbor, he enlisted, and he was a medic, and he was killed over there, and Bobby Kennedy was shot, Robert, Kennedy, and then Martin Luther King Jr., and it just seemed like everything. Yeah. So when you entered the 70s, there were some serious conversations we were really taught a lot about prejudice and how important it is not to judge a group of people by one or two people's behavior. I kind of feel like we're kind of missing out on that today. Seems
Yeah,
like
there's a lot of parallels, right, with like the kind of feeling there. A lot of people we've talked to said that the feeling in the early 70s feels a lot like kind of the feelings, some of the feelings that are now.
But what I'm hearing is that the conversations were happening because of those tragic events. It opened up for more conversations. And I would imagine at that time, that would even be a bigger deal in some ways than now, because those conversations couldn't take place with our phones. We didn't have so much freedom to talk to people on the other side of the world or on the other side of the country or anywhere. It all had to be with each other, probably in person.
In person, yeah.
Which in a way, Danielle, you've probably heard this statement before, but conversations person to person always seem to go better than just a group and, you know, just going out there and people have these one-line statements, and it's hard to have a conversation that way.
Well, I think people listen more too when you're in person and when you take the time to show up. But at least now we can do both. I mean, we can communicate with people on the other side of the world. We can spread messages that way, and we can still show up. I think just sometimes people are too lazy now, or they do what's too convenient. But with these conversations, we can remind everyone, like, it's still important to show up.
Yeah.
To take the time to listen to each other and have a dialogue. Yeah.
Well, that's a real important point for me, because it just seemed like the word prejudice was such an important word when I went through high school and into college. And now I don't know if I see that. It seems like we are grouping people, and that, I think that is a serious problem, actually.
Yeah.
So do you understand what I mean by the difference?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it's so interesting that all those conversations were like starting, and another thing too, I think with people were able to be kind of more on the same page with some things because there's, you know, less news sources and less voices out there, kind of. But then there's the positives now. So yeah, pros and cons on both sides.
Yeah.
I agree. I think listening to people and being in person or being whichever way you can, like listening to people and respecting other people by just as like a human being.
The solution is still the same.
Yeah.
Compassion, kindness, listening, all those things we're still working towards.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another big part, I can't go without saying this, you know, we had Haight-Ashbury and all those things, and what they call the sexual revolution, where it was like, you know, everything went, and but at the same time too was the Jesus People movement, and a lot of people's lives were radically changed that way. So it was just so much. Kids were really looking for answers.
Right. I feel like there was like a spiritual searching and an intellectual searching, and it seems like that generation, like your generation, was really looking for answers and exploring and I think more open.
Well, without you paving the way, without that generation paving the way, we wouldn't be where we are now. So I think it's really important to recognize the pioneers who were breaking that mold.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think we even thought of it that way. I think we.
Oh no! Yeah, you were just living, but yeah,
we were barely through life, right?
Well, the funny thing is, we're going to be talking to Donna Reed next, which is Danielle's mom. His name is Donna Reed.
Oh, okay.
Just funny, like the actress. But Danielle's mom lives in San Francisco now, and you guys grew up in San Francisco. Was she from the Bay Area?
We spent some time in the city, but actually when I was younger, I lived in the South Bay and North Bay. But for a while, when I was in college, I actually lived about 3 blocks from Haight-Ashbury.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't live during the actual Haight-Ashbury. Now it's kind of more of a touristy thing. But there is something about being in those areas and just sort of feeling the energy of a time where people were really making a difference, and making a difference not because everything was wonderful, but because, you had to kind of rise out of the dark times.
Right.
And I think you can feel that when you're in certain places,
Right.
you can feel that meaning. And from that, I feel like it's parallels to a universal human emotion that we can still connect to. So even people that aren't with us from that time, I still feel like we can connect to them.
Yeah, places are really like that. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's interesting when, just when we traveled down south a little bit, Jenny.
Yeah.
The difference in how, I don't know, I can just remember going to a restaurant and, I mean, people are just so hospitable,
Yeah, different feelings and
not that it isn't other places, but
the history in certain places is just potent sometimes. Yeah.
So.
Could give a word of your wisdom to the generation now, based off of everything we've talked about, or even stuff we haven't talked about. What would you bestow on the generation now with everything that they have access to?
My really deep hope would be that people make human connection more often, and maybe just really keep their social media at a dull roar, because it's not fun, or like my mom, it's wonderful, she's extremely hard of hearing, so doing something like this, I can talk slowly and clearly, and she can watch my words, so we can actually talk to each other. I mean, so it's amazing. It's not that it's a bad thing. I think it's just I think for some people, they let that become their life, which is real life.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
We need balance.
Human connection. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we really, I've really encouraged people to make sure they're having human connection. And variety of it, not everybody who's just like you.
Right. Yeah, with people that are different. Even things like at the store, like choosing to go to the cashier versus the self-checkout, like simple little things like that. Sometimes I'll catch myself. I'm like, oh, I just don't want to. But it's really healthy to have conversations with strangers and just anybody.
Yeah, to make that choice. Like be aware of it. Yeah.
So this 1973 was an outgrowing of, the decade before it. I think that's always the case.
Right.
So what you guys are doing now, your daughter Danielle is going to really be affected by whatever's now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We got a lot of work to do. Yeah, I know. But that's part of why we're doing this and making this movie, is because movies are timeless, and they can help the conversations now and from here on now. So we're hoping to make some conversations happen with it that will help make the world a better place.
Right.
Good.
I feel like storytelling has always been really powerful, whether it's a book or a film, or it's always been a way that we can empathize with characters that are different than us, or find something about history that we didn't know. So that's why storytelling, films.
Yes. Well, I'm anxious to see what you guys have in your can.
Yes, me too. We're anxious to make it. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. So we need your stories. We need these stories in order to create the movie. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, it was hang out with you guys for a little bit.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mom. It was so fun to have you.
Happy belated Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mother's Day.
Blessed with 4 amazing kids. So.
Aww.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and then next up we're gonna have Donna at 6:30, so you can feel free to watch that too.
Yeah.
So how do I do that? Do I just?
So I think when she's gonna come on in about 1 minute, and I think what will happen is when she comes on, it may bump you out of the live, but you can still see on our page the video that's happening with Donna.
All right.
Comment or anything.
Oh, does it bump out?
I think it will.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're still learning.
We're
too.
still learning.
I think in spirit we are in the 70s because we're
so.
not good with this stuff.
It is not.
But we're trying. We're trying to, you know, work with the winds of change and
Right.
also not forget the good things that came.
Yeah. Being open to the positive uses of social media, and so yeah.
Yes,
but we're very new at this.
Yes, we have to thank Jordan, who is with us now watching, and that she's helped teach us how to do this. Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan.
We appreciate you so much.
Social media girl.
Yes, we have to give her credit.
Well, I'll say goodbye so that you guys can get set up.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Goodbye,
you so
Mom.
much.
Thank
We really
you.
appreciate it.
No.
I'm not sure how.
I don't know.
I don't know. Oh wait, we're getting.
Just exit. Oh, go up here to the X. I see. Oh.
Did you see that comment from Jordan?
Okay.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan.
All right.
All right.
So Renee, that was Renee Skippington. And next up we have Donna Reed.
And I will just remind everyone the reason why we're doing this is because we have a 24-hour campaign that is happening on June 1st that will help us make this film happen. And along the way we are learning all sorts of things that are related to the 1970s, fun things, other more serious topics. And the best way that I know to learn about this stuff is talk to people who lived during those times. So I'm really excited. We're going to bring on my own mom, and she's going to fill us in a little bit on that. So let's see if we can do that. See,
get Donna on here. Well, should I send the invite here? Is she on?
Let me see.
And it's D Reed. Invite.
All right. We're getting so much better at this, Jordan.
Yes.
I hope you're proud of us. We learned a lot in a week.
Maybe she's logging in right now.
Let me see that happen. Oh, I spoke too soon, maybe. Okay.
Let me try it one more time. Donna.
Oh, okay. She said she's on. So,
oh, let's see.
Oh, no. Okay, so let me see.
And there's Foxy.
That's my dog.
All right. Send it one more time. But yeah, so June 1st is our big day with Hourglass 24. Our script will be featured for 24 hours.
Yeah, we're going to do some fun things that day live to talk about the film, things about the film.
Oh, she made it.
Oh, okay. Oh, there we are.
How are you? Yeah.
Good. The technology lesson, Danielle.
Well, it's
not my thing.
I think
so.
you can tell as the generations go on, it's very much a generational thing. But Jordan saying that she's proud.
Oh yes, she's saying Hourglass 24 is the campaign on June 1st that we're doing for funding. But yes, this is Donna Reed, and we're going to talk a little bit about the 70s with Donna.
So thank you for joining us on the live today. We're talking about 1973 because
I like your glasses.
Yes, you're so perfect. Because that's the year that our story takes place, and it's actually half century from 2023, so 50 years. So we're learning a lot by talking to anyone who can help fill us in on what life was like at that time.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were and what sort of things were happening?
Oh, yeah. So I was early 70s, still in high school, graduated in 74, going to San Diego State, theater major. And which I stuck out for like 2 years before I decided, you know, the time was great because I really think that the 70s were so many things changed in the 70s. The conventionalism was being challenged by a newer consciousness called, the hippie movement. And I was wrapped up in that. I was a big part of that. So, yeah, I left college and I saved money and I went to Europe. I decided I wanted to study at the Royal Academy.
Very fancy, yeah.
But I didn't apply for it. I just went. And I ended up having instead of a educational experience there, I ended up having a personal, like in the moment life experience. So I worked as a barmaid. And that was really interesting to be over in England at the time.
Wow.
Working
Was
as a
there
barmaid.
similar movements happening in England that were similar to America, or was it different?
Everywhere. This was I think that there are times where there's just a change of consciousness, and the hippie movement was a big change of consciousness, collective consciousness. I mean, so, we were really about opening up, more accepting, breaking the rules, like the conventional rules that seem to hold you down, especially for females. Up until that point, we were basically told, you're going to grow up, get married. For instance, my father, when we were kids, 2 brothers, 3 sisters. The sisters will find somebody to take care of them, but the brothers must go to college. So I was the one daughter that went to college, which I think was a little disappointing for my mom, who was really a closet woman's lib kind of person. In other words, she wasn't out there talking about it, but she really wanted us to have other options besides getting married and having children. So anyway, yes, I went to there, and I stayed there until the charter plane that I took over there in England went bankrupt, because that was happening at the time. A lot of kids were just dropping out of school, hitchhiking across Europe, doing their thing, like saying basically to their parents and all conventions before them, nope, I'm not going to turn into the same old, I'll go be the dad and go out and do this, and you'll be the mom and do that. And so a lot of charter planes, that was really big back then, but all of them went broke within 3 to 5 years because they couldn't, they were offering flights that were ridiculously low at the time, and couldn't, running. So it was a very big changing
So you
time.
were a junior in high school in 73.
Mm-hmm. Yes. When
So that's we
when
had
a lot
just
of
talked to
things
my mom.
happened.
It was the same, those kind of formative years, like 68 to 73. Do you remember how that kind of felt as far as change and the climate of everything?
Well, I mean, there's so much going on at the time. There was the Vietnam War. There was like I said, the first really big breakout for women, besides burning the bras in the late 60s, was the ruling for a woman's, right over her body to have her own choice.
I
over
think
her
you
body.
said
That was
73. Oh, so the
73.
year that we're in, yeah.
Yeah, so when all of that was going on, to be honest with you, I was paying very little attention to that. I was into, my acting. I was going to go to New York and I wanted to work in live theater, and I was all about that. But as I went to college and getting the training and so forth, and then I thought, why do this?
Yeah.
Just go live a little. And an interesting story is I had like I said, left school, and then my oldest brother knew somebody that he went to school with who was a big part of the Pasadena Playhouse. So he got me an interview, which was a really big deal back then because it was, but I didn't do it because this was in 1977.
Oh yeah, so
and
I am
was
the
pregnant
reason
with
why
Danielle.
you didn't pursue your career.
Well, no, you are, yes, you are the reason,
Yeah,
but you were the choice. I did not want to, that's what mattered most to me. And I realized I had been studying so hard for that particular thing in my life, to be an actress, that I was missing out on living. So that's why I left school. That's why I went to Europe. I wanted to live a little. I wanted to have fun before all of that. And then part of that fun was meeting her biological dad, and we moved in together. This was all very difficult for my parents. This was, all in the face of, leaving convention entirely, and it was really hard. It was tough. And when I got pregnant with her, I did not want to marry her dad. We weren't right for each other. So but I wanted her, and I knew that. But honestly, I think it helped to know that I had a choice.
So aside from your parents, what else did you encounter during that time that might have made things more difficult than like being a mother, having a child, not married, unconventional? Like, was it hard in other aspects of your life? Like with
It was really hard. It was really hard on my parents, but especially my mom, who really believed in me. She saw me as making it, and she supported me totally in being an actress. So I think she was far more let down by my not pursuing my dream than I was. And it was a shameful thing at the time. Still, believe it or not, it was like, you're not getting married. They even orchestrated a meeting between Danielle's biological dad and I, saying, just go to Reno. Just get married. So at least her name will, as if she wasn't going to have a name if I didn't do that. And I was like, no, I will not do that. I won't marry somebody and have a phony type of thing just for that. But there were the looks, of course, neighbors, and but I pretty much turned a blind eye to all of that because I was self-consumed at the time. So I didn't think of it. If it wasn't wrong for me, then it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I think I always have been a rebel, but usually if you tell me to do something, okay, then maybe if I agree with you, but
Yeah.
I'm going to find my own way.
Do you think the hippie movement helped empower you that way?
I absolutely know it helped empower me that way. All the people that came before me and broke the mold gave me the voice to say, hey, I'm not just another girl. I'm not just a female. I'm a person. And very definitely. So and it was really hard for my parents, but a lot of people, because abortion had just happened literally less than 5 years before, a lot of people were saying, you got a choice. you could do this, you could do that. And, the more they said that I could do it, I said, I know it's great. I don't want it. But and I've never, ever, Danielle, ever.
For the record.
In the least.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, so you were in San Diego for college, but where were you for high school? Were you in San Francisco? The Bay Area.
The Bay Area, called Pacifica. And yeah, it was fun. Back then, and because of things that were changing, I laugh at this now, but they used to have a lot behind the high school where kids could, and teachers could go smoke, take, their smoke breaks during classes. And you had students and the teachers smoking together, and sometimes not just cigarettes.
Whoa,
And it was
crazy. Yeah.
It was like such a changing time. It was like when the internet first came in, people didn't really know what to do with it. Everybody was just doing what they could with it. And it's the same with that. When you had all of these, we're not going to have these very conventional, the same rules that have been going on for 30 years, 40, 50, whatever. You just had people sort of falling into figuring it out type of thing. And everybody was caught up in it.
Even some of the teachers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Some were for it, others were staunchly against it. But interestingly enough, everybody was not talking about it. They were just doing their own thing. And there wasn't, a big divide because nobody really talked about it. They might have talked about each other when they got home, but nobody talked about it otherwise. For me, it was great, though. I'm glad to have been in the time of a conscious change.
So when you were in high school, 73, do you remember any fun pop culture things, like your favorite band or movies that came out that affected you?
Oh, gosh. Well, I loved the Moody Blues. They were probably my favorite band at the time. And they still are in many ways. But movies, oh gosh, trying to think, 19. I was really busy in high school because I was part of the theater department. So I was usually, that was my life. I was just plays and having a good time. But everybody was part of everything, back then. Like I was telling Danielle's daughter, my granddaughter, that the music department and the drama department were entirely separate, and they put on separate productions and things like that. The musicals were with the musical department, and the funny or serious plays were with the drama department. But to talk about things, concerts were big. So I didn't like concerts, but everybody was going to the concerts. And so in San Francisco, there were all these places. And that's where you could go to, Golden Gate Park and these other places. Literally just get there early, get a spot, and for free, you saw Jefferson Airplane. You saw all of the big groups because that was part of the movement too. They weren't capitalizing on money. Maybe their managers were, but they weren't. They were playing for the kids, and so.
Oh, that's so cool. So, do you remember what drew you to acting? Was there a specific play or a specific role or something you saw, or what got you excited about it? Yeah.
Acting? I was a really shy kid, and there was, I heard that the drama department was so good that you had to audition to get into it as a freshman, and or not audition, you had to sign up, and they only took so many in. It was like an exclusive club or something. So I stood in line just because, always the rebel, right? Well, I'm shy. Well, I'll go do this. But I didn't expect to get in because I was way back of the line. The person ahead of me was the last person they were going to take in. It was a boy. And he turns around and he goes, I had done a little something in junior high that people complimented me on. So he turns around and he goes, you're good at this. You can
It
have
was
my
that last
spot.
spot.
And that's
Oh,
how
wow.
it got. And then, yeah, so, and, it's funny because back then I had never heard of any of the plays we were doing. Most, most of them I hadn't heard of. And then, I didn't realize you had to pay royalties. Schools had to pay certain fees to do plays. So I think our teacher, he grabbed some really good plays, but they wouldn't be
Right.
top billing of
Right.
what you would know. But it fit within the school budget. But we were really good in this one that was my favorite, mainly because I got the comedy role. And somebody wanted to do a touring group of us in this play, summer stock. But it was, the 70s, it was still the hippie time, and everybody's like, oh man, that's my summer.
You
No
were
way,
enjoying life.
so.
Enjoying it, yeah.
Yeah, in the moment.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
want to do the summer stock. Believe me, I start
So
them.
if you
But
could take anything from that era and gift it to the generation now, what do you think what would your wise words say as far as like moving forward, what you would say based off of what you lived through back then?
I would say bring back the peace movement, bring back the um, the freedom. Don't be hindered by the loud voices that want to shout you down and tell you you can't do it. Um, because literally the 70s changed everything going forward, from war to freedom for females, males, all cultures, I want to say, because believe it or not, that was a time when race relations weren't too bad. It depended where you live, but in California, it was a pretty good time. There was also a lot of changes, sexually, physically. I remember, in high school meeting becoming friends with guys who I had no idea were gay, but by the end of high school, I knew they were gay because I went to parties. And the freedom for them to be able to express that was a big deal because they could only do that at parties. You couldn't talk about it with their parents, and um, there was a lot of change going on that way. There weren't the racial kinds of divisions going on, at least here. It was like everybody come
What
together.
helped build
That
the
was a time
connection
when
and the peace?
The
Was it
peace.
compassion, listening? What was so different than that really buzzed?
it was it music, it was the anti-war, it was, the free love, you don't have to get married, move in together. It was the be open. And to some degree, it was the drugs because the drugs loosened people up. Unfortunately, they also took hold of people too. And that's always been
And
the
to
case.
achieve the
So,
peace that you're talking about, because, ultimately, I think we all want that for humanity. What would be, what do you think would be the number one thing that people should do more of?
listen. Stop talking and actually listen to what somebody is saying to you before you think you have the perfect response. Tolerance, just tolerance, and you're going to change your mind a lot in your life. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Don't be afraid to stand up for your voice. It's how you keep the freedom you got. And I think a lot of the kids now, I'm so impressed. with how smart they are. And I see it's a thing that happens. It's not like we make it happen. It's like a universal message maybe of change, but every generation brings progress.
Yeah.
And you just got to stick together and not get caught up in other people's old
I become
time
more aware of
stuff,
that
you know.
progress when I'm researching a script and I'm reading about stuff that happened in 1973 or 1921. You know, we get it from movies, but when you research actual newspaper articles and talk to people who lived during that time, you really get a good perspective of how to take advantage of the times that we are in now.
Very true. Yeah. I love that it comes back to that message of peace and listening and having respect for others and just like tolerance too. Yeah. Because that kind of both of the conversations today kind of really came back to that.
Yeah, Jenny's mom said a similar thing, the human connection.
Yeah.
So I think deep inside, underneath all of the anger and the sorrow and everything, all the anxiety that everyone's going through, we all really want that. So hopefully through all of our resources now and everything that your generation paved the way for, we can accomplish that, or at least move towards it.
Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't stay so calm and peaceful, but you know, it's like age, I always say it makes you bitter or it makes you better. And it really depends on, you know, what you choose for yourself, what you want in your life, because you can't learn it collectively. Though every now and then we have these collective changes, progress that come up, and it's beautiful. But the old is afraid of the new.
Yeah.
So always the
we
way.
learn, you know, like I'm learning from you, I'm learning from my daughter. And, you know, I think what you said, as soon as you listen, all of that changes. I think we might, because we only get an hour, I think we might get cut off soon. I don't want to cut you off in mid-sentence. Is there anything else that you want to add before we sign out?
Well, not really, but it was fun talking about the
story and
70s.
your journey and everything. It sounds like an exciting time, and that you had great experiences.
Well, I was caught up in
No,
it,
thank
to
you
be
for
sure,
sharing
in
the
my
stories.
own way.
You never know who's listening and who you will help along the way. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
Hi,
cool.
Michael. I see that Michael joined. Well, thank you so much, Mom, and happy belated Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you for choosing me.
Thank you.
But I'm glad you had the choice.
You
I'm
know,
glad.
best biggest decision of my life at that time.
Well, have a good night.
All
Thank
right.
you. I'm not sure how we sign you off. We're
Thank
still learning, so you might have to end.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I can
Thank
just
you.
end it then.
Thank you, Donna.
Bye-bye.
So that was our live with both of our mothers, which was pretty special to be able to interview your own mom. And if you haven't done that, or and if you have an opportunity to interview anyone in your life that's older than you, I highly suggest it.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear people's stories and people who've lived through these times. And so thank you for sharing, Renee and Donna, today. Yes.
And the reason why we're doing this is because we are exploring the 1970s, because that is the era that our feature film is going to be taking place. And we are doing a lot of lives right now in order to build momentum for our 24-hour campaign happening June 1st in order to raise funds to make this film.
Right, and that's through a company called Hourglass 24. And we will be featured on their platform on June 1st for 24 hours.
Yes, we're very excited. They've been wonderful and very helpful along the way.
And I'm sure you'll be hearing more about that as we go along. Yeah. But super fun live today with our moms. And so thank you so much, everyone, for watching and for, just like chatting and stuff. It's great.
And we'll see you next time. Okay. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
So I hit the X.
Okay.